happening, right? So we were just at the opening of the coronavirus marathon that it turned out to be, and then everything else started happening. So we're all in new and unfortunately not so new water. So I want to do a quick round of just say, hey, how you're doing? I think it's a small enough group and we have enough time to do that. So I get to learn who's on the phone and just a quick roll call and a quick wellness check. How are you? Well, don't all volunteer at once now.
Well, I will definitely get things started by saying that I think throughout the COVID-19 challenge, I've been able to maintain a feeling of optimism that some good is going to come from the chance to be forced to work virtually, like these career webinars, or the opportunity to see that sometimes work isn't always the priority and we need to prioritize family and home life. I think the recent tragedies and kind of the finally hitting the tipping point on some of the issues of racism that happen regularly, unfortunately, in this country has dampened that a little bit. And I'm having some trouble regaining that sort of sense of optimism this week. I feel a little bit troubled and a little bit down. I don't know if anyone else shares those feelings, but happy to offer that.
Hi, I'm Bryson. I'm a recent alum of the University of Hartford. I did my bachelor's and master's there. Recently just graduated with the master's. And I feel similar to Caitlin. I've noticed for me, I've been feeling very unmotivated recently. Like I don't feel like really doing anything, I guess, quote unquote productive. I've kind of just been, laying around, kind of just contemplating things. And I think it is due to, the recent, news that we've been seeing uh, with with racism in America, and then you mix in, COVID-19 and everything else is just kind of feeling like a lot and overwhelming all at once.
Anyone else? You guys can feel free to type in the chat too if that's more comfortable. And Caitlin, do you mind moving to the next slide for me? Thanks. Okay, well, seeing as we have no more volunteers, I think it's important to, one, assess the way you're feeling, and two, use that, right? Negative energy and positive energy is still energy, right? So whether you're feeling unmotivated or you just feel like, you know what, this isn't going to work, or, there's millions of people filing for unemployment, how the hell am I going to get a job? Use that, channel that, if you will, right? So that takes us into our next piece, channeling our fears and apprehensions, right? I think every challenge starts with, oh my God, how the hell am I going to pull this off? Whether it is, college, how the hell am I going to graduate? Nobody in my family ever did it. Everybody said it's hard. Nobody even made it in, never mind drop out. Like, what am I doing? Or whether it's going for that big job that you think, you're looking at the qualifications and there's like 12 qualifications and you only meet 9 of them. Man, I shouldn't even apply. Screw it. Right? Or you're thinking, from little things to big things, whether it's a simple application or, having a kid you're not ready for. There's little things in life and big things in life. And the commonality between them is, oh, shoot, how am I going to do this? Compile that with a climate like we're in today, and you start feeling really hopeless or helpless, right? So it's important to me that you prioritize yourself, right? Think of yourself as a business. Think of yourself as a brand, right? Every business you've ever heard of, every business you might buy from or patronize has a logo, maybe a phrase, maybe a jingle, something to help you remember how that business is marketed, right? Now you're the business. So even if you're not feeling it, and you might not be feeling yourself, and I don't feel myself every day, some days, not every day, how you market yourself makes a lasting impression. It's super important. And in order to do that, you have to A, assess yourself, and B, assess the market you're quote unquote selling to or advertising to. All right, so with that, next slide, please. Slide to the right. All right, so that brings us into, have I studied the market I'm moving into? So I don't know where everybody is in their professional lives, because that was kind of, you guys all messed up my intro here. If I had figured out when you all graduated, I could have tailored this a little better, but that's all right. We're gonna improv. Whether you're a new graduate or someone who graduated X amount of years ago, right? There are two things that we have in common with the class of 2020. One, everybody's trying to get into their next move, including them. And two, the market is always changing. They're coming into a really volatile market, unfortunately, right? But for anyone who's either looking to switch jobs or get into a new job, so are we. We just have a little bit more of a resume to sit on. But either way, we're both coming into that same volatile intersection at the market between old grads and new grads, right? So when you're looking at your field, and I have switched fields, oh my gosh, I graduated Hartford and went straight to law school. From law school, I didn't start practicing law for about 4 years till after I graduated. So I switched fields for a bit. I was a project coordinator, then I was a privacy officer, then I was a tax consultant for 1.5 years, then now I'm here. And I'm finally practicing law and doing what I actually went to school to do. Each time that you're trying to do that, one, it's okay. I think the old notions of, oh, you can't switch, or you have too many jobs in your resume, that's done and gone with, in part because we have become our own brands. It's not like it used to be with our parents or our grandparents who had one job and stayed with it their whole lives and then retired with a pension. Unfortunately, that sort of loyalty just doesn't exist anymore, right? But that also leaves you free to compete in the market like any other business, and you can move any other time. So think of the market you're moving into. How old is it? What do you know about it? Who do you know in it? How does it interact? How can you interact with it? What does it need? What can you bring? Right? How can you relate? If you can't relate for any reason, which I'm hard pressed to believe that there's a reason you couldn't, but just in case, if you can't think of a reason, all right, that puts you in an interesting position. Now you have to be what's called a disruptive innovator. Anybody ever heard of that before? Somebody? Anybody? No? Okay. So with that, I recommend a book. I have a book recommendation because we're all home and we're working from home, and now we have a little more time than we thought we'd have. It's called Competing Against Luck. Now, I caution you, this is more about companies and less about people. But again, think of yourself as a company. So if you can apply what's in here to yourself as the person and as the brand, a lot of this ends up making sense. And what this is figuring out why someone would hire you for the position that you're applying to. Think beyond the job description. A lot of these job descriptions are written in a way that they kind of legally have to be written. Think outside of what's there, and think outside of the criteria that's set there. There's some basic things. You need to have this degree. You need to have this credential or this skill. Okay. Kind of, just willy-nilly written. And people, I often thought that if I didn't meet every single piece of that criteria, that I just couldn't apply. Like Nicole need not apply to this. And that's just not true. And I think it's a really flawed way of thinking. It's a flawed way of looking at yourself. So think of how you can relate to the position. And if you can't, how can you disrupt it so much that you make a position for yourself? You make the position relate to you. And once you figure that out, and if you need help, again, leverage your alumni, leverage your friends. I'm your new friend, leverage people. Once you figure that out, How can you be more inclusive, especially in today's climate, especially as we're watching current events? What are we missing? We're missing opportunities. We're missing people lifting people up. We're missing people, setting the path for the next group and cohort to come in. What are you missing? How can you be more inclusive? You have now figured out something. Yes, thank you. You have now figured out something that was missing in the market or that was missing in the field. And there's nothing that's less fun from personal experience than being the only one in the room that looks like you or that has had your experiences. It's not fun. It doesn't make you special. It's not a fun thing. You look around, you're like, wow, it's lonely up here. You're missing something, right? So once you get to where you want to be, I would argue to anybody, you have a duty to then turn around and figure out how to disrupt the status quo, how to disrupt the criteria so that other people get to be where you just made it. Slide to the right, please. All right, so how do you do that? What does that mean? Branding yourself. And I know we've all heard this, especially those of us that, graduated in the 2000s when social media exploded, right? When I was at Hartford, we had Facebook, MySpace was getting less popular, Facebook was getting more popular, and then we had, all these other weird sites. Social media has become a really powerful tool, and that's another thing that we're seeing right now through current events. Images, pictures, hashtags, writings, how we communicate with one another. Social media is huge, right? Now you can use it to further, your political stance, which admittedly I do, and at this point, I think we should, right? Not so humble opinion, but you should also be using it to further your brand. Again, you are a autonomous, self-contained business, whether you're incorporated or not. You're your own brand, right? So how are you going to market yourself? How are you going to use your social media? One, go through all your pictures. And if it's not something you would want on a billboard or marketed to the public about who you are and what you do and what you're about, it doesn't belong there. It either belongs private or take it down or, somewhere. But if it's not something that you would want to see brought up at a deposition later, that's what I tell clients. If you don't want this in a deposition, don't say it. Or if it's not something you would sell, it doesn't belong there. So, that's a great question. I'll get to that. So using your social media is important for how you want to portray yourself carefully and genuinely, right? People are going to look you up all the time. Everyone's Googleable for better or worse, right? So you want to make sure that what is out there portrays you. And if it doesn't portray you very well, you need to be able to take remediation steps and use the internet to your advantage. So using your ability to effectively communicate your message or style. This concept of you have a persona for home and you have a persona for work used to be a thing. It's not so much a thing with my generation anymore. Now we're coming out talking about bring your whole self to work. And you should, right? Especially now that we're all working from home and the days are blending into each other and your home life and your work life have suddenly become, intertwined, whether comfortably or uncomfortably. So that means how are you going to communicate your style in a way that makes you comfortable in that sweet spot between home and work? Because you can't be two different people all the time. You can curtail, you can be professional, but being professional doesn't mean you have to bring a whole new persona. You have to say who you are. So effectively communicating your genuine self in style is important. Your pictures and your likeness play an important role. The picture that was used for today's webinar, for example, was the picture that I took as an incoming staff person at Deloitte. It's a year old. And that was back when I thought that in order to look more professional, I had to straighten my hair, right? Things like that. Your pictures and your likeness say a lot about you. I don't have a better picture of me right now because I'm working from home. I look a hot mess. So when I'm able, I'll take another picture, okay? But you realize as you go and as you move through your professional life, and you learn more about yourself and the people you're working with, how important pictures are. And we're seeing that all the time. We see that in media, and you have to be able to intercross or intersect is a better word, intersect what you see on the media and how you're portraying your own likeness. So with that, I bring you a quote from Maya Angelou, who I adore. When someone tells you who they are, believe them. So what are you saying to people about who you are, right? The human's natural inclination is to find inconsistencies and contradictions. Not everybody readily trusts. So if somebody's telling you something, you're thinking, do I believe this? Do I trust what's being told to me? Where am I going to find that flaw? Where am I going to poke that hole? So you don't want to give anyone a reason to distrust you or your brand. Tell them who you are, and they'll believe you until they have reason not to. Next slide, please. So how do we tell people who we are? How do we portray our best self and our likeness and our genuine and inclusive selves? What do we use? Professionally, we use things like LinkedIn or Indeed. That's how I got my current job. Or Monster or ZipRecruiter. We use things like that. So everybody, if you have nothing else to do today, restructure your profile on LinkedIn immediately. Put in a background picture that says something about you. For example, like mine is a rainbow skyline of Albany, where I lived prior to where I live now. And I found that it was a very unique looking skyline. It's got an egg-shaped building. It's something that I like. It's a place that I'm very fond of. It's rainbow, goes with some of my LGBTQ plus support. And it says something about me, subtly. Then you have your picture and everything about your professional self. So put something in there about you that is detailed, that will say something about you without being, overtly loud, I guess. You can choose to upload your resume or not. Don't do both, right? So if you upload your resume and then you're putting in every single detail about your professional history, it's redundant and people don't have a lot of time. We have to respect each other's time or lack thereof. So what do you want to say about you in 5 minutes or less to have that person understand the flavor of who you are, what you do, and what you can do, right? So I chose not to upload my resume because I'm always changing it and I don't want to upload 10,000 versions of the same thing. Instead, I have my details in there, one or the other. Keep it current as you can, as often as you can, because every person that looks at it is a new contact. Every person that wants to know something about you is looking on there. It's an opportunity. Don't be afraid to brag about yourself. We don't get a lot of opportunities to do that. Most of us are taught to be modest or humble. LinkedIn's a good place to share your accomplishments. If you're doing that, I would also encourage you to promote. Brag about yourself, absolutely, but turn around and brag about the next guy too. So the more you're able to promote within your network and promote people that you really admire, the better off it looks on you anyway, right? Because you're able to recognize other talent. You're not the only talent in the room. And, if you are the smartest person in the room, you're sitting in the wrong room. So using other applications, Indeed, Monster, and ZipRecruiter. These are great and they're super helpful. And you can also upload your resume to each site. We were having some difficulty with WebEx today, so I wanted to walk you through a few of them, but I think we're just going to keep this conversational. But you can structure it so that you're only looking at jobs within your field, jobs within the pay grade that you're looking for, jobs within your geographical location. You can do the same with LinkedIn, and LinkedIn has search functions that are very similar to like the Google search queries. You can be very tailored in your searches. That's something they taught us at Deloitte, so I only share that because knowledge I didn't have 3 years ago, for example, that I have now that should be shared. Leverage your alumni network. It is gold. It is, particularly the University of Hartford network. I'm always so impressed at how accomplished some of these people are. Like Hartford creates some amazing, accomplished people who are amazingly nice. Like everybody's social. This is not that kind of school that's, looking to take a book out of the library and never bring it back so nobody else can read it. Like, that's just not the kind of school we went to. And I'm happy to see it's still that communal. So good question. So if you're looking for advice and for whatever reason, you're a hermit with no friends, which I doubt, right? But if you're looking for advice and you need to start looking for mentors who are in your field or in your state or have similar backgrounds to you, more likely than not, you'll be able to find them in the alumni network. There are a lot of us, and we group up really well, and we teach really well. So leverage your alumni network. You're here at this webinar because in some way, form, or fashion, you have a relationship with the school. Leverage that relationship. For real, for real. Next slide, please. Okay, attacking, back. Look at that old typo, damn. It's supposed to say attacking your game plan. Okay, my bad. Wow, so much for that. Attacking your game plan.
I just want to quickly jump in. Sorry, my fault on the slide swapping. Did you want to address Kristen's question now, or do you want to hold that for a little bit? I think the mentor you might want to address later, but the navigating those platforms.
Great. Okay. Yes, I think that's because I'm seeing her questions. Like, oh, good question. All right. So
she's a rock star. Thanks, Kristen.
Right. So she's an educator. Don't worry about it. So let's look at her first questions, which says, if folks are unfamiliar with navigating these professional network platforms, how can they learn to use them effectively? That's a great question. A lot of the platforms have tutorials built into them. So we'll take LinkedIn, for example. There is something on LinkedIn called LinkedIn Learning. And LinkedIn Learning, you can just right into the search bar. So when you're wherever you see the search bar on the top of your LinkedIn, when you're looking for someone, for example, when you're searching people, in that very same search bar, you will type in LinkedIn Learning and courses can come up. And you can have a course in anything, literally anything, from how to use LinkedIn to Excel. Lots of people, need help using Microsoft Office tools like Excel and PowerPoint. They're becoming more and more popular and more normalized in the workforce. How to put your profile together. The other thing is, if you have a LinkedIn profile, you click on your own picture, it'll take you to your profile. Every piece of your profile has a little pencil next to it, and you edit it piecemeal. It's not one big, huge, overwhelming profile. You edit each piece to say what you want it to. And it gives you the parameters of how many characters are allowed or where you went to school. It'll search the school for you sometimes because every school has its own page. Hartford's got its own page. Look it up. Shameless plug. So you can go in and do a step-by-step. I can also send the group, whoever's in here, and I don't know if you have everyone's email addresses, but I can send screenshots of each step-by-step, particularly for LinkedIn, because it's a really important medium for people to see you, right? See you as a person, see your picture, see your name, see your past accomplishments, see your resume. You can do your resume on Indeed, but LinkedIn seems to be the more popular professional platform, so it's easier to just start with LinkedIn. Using things like Indeed and ZipRecruiter, both of those will take your resume as a regular old upload. Like you upload it like a regular document to any site. Indeed and ZipRecruiter have criteria that you put in on the left side. I can send screenshot pictures of that, and then people can navigate accordingly, and we can ask each other questions and keep the dialogue rolling, later on. Like, we only have an hour today, but we'll keep the dialogue rolling another time. So I will email screenshots to the group, to anyone who wants this information or wants to share it with other people.
Thank you, Nicole. Anything you want to take and compile into a document for afterwards, I will send out to the group via email. I have everybody's email from when you registered, so we'll be able to do a follow-up. And we can also link you to the recorded version of this webinar if you're taking some notes and you just want to review or refresh or pass it along to someone else. Happy to have you do that. And Kristen followed up with a question about resources available in the Career Studio at the University of Hartford for alumni who need help with career transitions. We have a list of information and resources that we send out to alumni who write to alumni at hartford.edu with questions or give us a call on the phone. So I can actually include that information in the follow-up message that Nicole puts together so that you can all have access to that. Thank you for asking that question, Kristen. It's always something that's important to us. And part of the reason we're doing these webinars, provide a space for people to connect with other alums and learn a little bit more, but also be a part of the tools and resources we want to have available for people as they complete their degree or when they come back and want to transition. So,
yeah.
Thanks.
So that takes us into attacking your game plan. I had a lot of time and no time at all these last 3 months simultaneously, right? So when I got started at Griffin Alexander, I had applied in February or January or February, well before these lockdowns, well before Corona was a really widely known thing. I was still working at Deloitte. I wasn't entirely happy there, and I wanted to make a change. Did the application, got the interview, went through the interview. I started working on March 19th, and I live in New Jersey. I work and live in New Jersey. So by March 25th, we were on a full lockdown. Like nobody leaves the house, curfew at 8 o'clock, no work, you're staying home. So everything I've learned at this new role, I've learned from home through emails, on a Zoom call, on a phone call, like sitting by myself. It's not your normal day-to-day start to a really big new job, particularly as you're switching jobs and fields. And yes, I've been licensed for a few years, but actively using that license is something totally different. So it's been interesting, right? And I'm sure that a lot of people can echo that experience. It's been interesting as we all sit in our homes and try to understand the new normal. So in attacking your game plan, and realizing how much time you suddenly have that you didn't have before, and you're sitting at home anyway with all of your resources and your notebooks and everything here and all your extra food, making me get fat and everything else, make a punch list, okay? What do I want to do? I'm sitting at home. I wasn't sure that I wanted to be at the job I'm in, and now I'm working from home, or for whatever unfortunate reason, I may have lost the job I had, and now I'm sitting at home. What can I do? Make that punch list. And it doesn't have to be overwhelmingly long. In fact, it shouldn't be overwhelmingly long. If it's 3 to 5 things that you do every day on that punch list, as long as you crossed everything out, it's a good day. It's a good day. Right? So set your parameters in your punch list. What am I going to do? Today, I'm going to apply to 4 new jobs or 5 new jobs. Today, I'm going to send my resume to 3 people for review, 3 people in my network. Or I'm going to, do 2 mock interviews, whatever it is, right? Have that list, and every day add to that list because you knocked out the things from the day before. And before you know it, in a month, you'll see how long that list really was. So make your punch list and stick to it. 2, set your parameters. And this is so important. This is something I learned the hard way time and time again. You will not be able to negotiate for yourself if you have not yet negotiated with yourself. What does that mean? Right? It's an employer's job to lowball you. It's what they have to do, right? You're out trying to get the most you can, and they're out trying to get the most they can for the least they have to give. It's how it is. This is good old capitalism when we have to play the game, right? So set your parameters when you're walking into that interview or you're walking into that offer. What is your absolute bottom line? Right? And don't be afraid to walk away. Like that's a big deal. Knowing that you have to walk away if you reach this bottom line is something you have to first accept with yourself before you even bother scheduling that interview. Okay, so you have to know I'm coming to the table. This is my absolute bottom line. And if I can't get this bottom line, I'm going to have to leave that table, go to a different table. So you have to negotiate with yourself, and you have to have an honest conversation between you and you. Because if you can't negotiate with yourself, nobody's going to be able to negotiate with you. That's the problem, right? So that honest conversation is everything when you're thinking of an interview or you're thinking of your next move. And it doesn't only have to be about money. That's also a big thing. That's a really important thing I've learned in the last year. it's not only about the salary. Right? I had a position where I made a very handsome salary. However, it cost way too much of my time. And you come to learn at that point that time is very valuable. Family time is very valuable. Your own availability to the things you like to do and your family or your children, if you have them, is valuable, right? So don't think of it as a bottom line with just salary. Yes, salary is important. Absolutely. Especially now. People are losing their income. It's a big deal. I hear you. Your time, though, is a big deal. Your mental health is a big deal. Your physical health is a big deal. Your ability to get healthcare is a huge deal, right? So when you're thinking about how much you want to put in and get out, don't just think about the salary. Mental health is worth money. Yeah, so be strategic, be holistic, and be honest with you first. Cover letters, about those. Growing up and helping my mom along the way when I was younger and she was going through jobs, cover letters used to be a big deal. At least in my experience in the fields that I have participated in. If it's required, you write one because it's required. A lot of employers typically don't read them, or they're sent through like software that will look for keywords in the cover letter to make sure that the keywords match up to the posting that they put out. So all that's to say, they're not as helpful as they used to be, right? Unless you have something really substantive to say about yourself and about how you relate to that position and about why you genuinely want that position, so substantive that it might, change someone's mind because it's just that important. Okay. But otherwise, unless it says you have to write one, they're not as important anymore. There are screening questions you can answer. There are applications you can write out. There's a resume. Your resume is solid and gold. It says a lot about you. Whether or not you have a lot of experience, your resume still says a lot about you. Put something in there about you. For example, I have a history of volunteering with the fire department. Something I love to do. It's something that's important to me. Something I personally think is badass for a girl who's 5'2", right? It's cool. So I put it in. It's something that's right at the bottom. It doesn't take up a lot of room. And you'd be surprised how many times I've been asked in an interview, "Whoa, you volunteered with the fire department? Like, what'd you do?" I went through crawl spaces, no big deal, in my bunker gear because I could fit. It's a conversation starter. And again, it brands you and markets you in a genuine way. You're not a robot for a posting, and you can't pretend that the job I'm all about this job. This is my whole life, but you don't have any experience in it, right? So you can't be disingenuous. It's a big deal. Don't be afraid to talk to your friends, your mentors, alumni, your family, the alumni office, places where you were molded, right? A lot of us were molded by our years at Hartford or our years in high school or our years in another institution we were a part of. And that's a big thing. That's part of their brand. And they're all too happy to help people that they shaped because it says a lot about them. Hartford is all too happy to take your call. Right? Another successful alumni is a big old badge. Look how many cool, great, successful alumni we have. So talk to them. Use them as a resource. It's not just, hey, we got your tuition dollars. There's your commencement. Have a nice day. Your relationship is not severed once you graduate. In fact, it's strengthened once you graduate and you have something great to say about yourself later. As far as applications, you're going to get a lot of rejections. Everybody gets a lot of rejections. Harvard graduates get rejections. Past presidents have failed bar exams. Past presidents have gotten fired from McDonald's. People get rejected. It happens. And it happens to people of high esteem and maybe not so high esteem. Whatever. The most important part of a rejection, though, is what you learn from it. So it's okay. In fact, I encourage you to contact that employer if you were rejected and just ask for feedback. What can you do better for next time? Some of them might not answer you. Some of them might say nothing. Some of them might actually give you feedback. And those are the ones that are really valuable, because then you incorporate that feedback into your next to go. Next slide, please. I gotta fix that typo. That's annoying as hell. All right, outro. That just minor pieces of advice as we, come to a conclusion in our discussion, and I open it up to everyone else. Everything okay there? Oh, do I have control of this now? No, I don't. Okay.
No, I'm sorry. I just lost it. Hold on 1 second.
That's okay. So that's all right. I remember what was in there. So outro, there are 3 things that I kind of want everyone to walk away with today. 1, I see 12 participants on the call, and albeit 3 of them might be institutional advancement, but nonetheless, I want everyone here to look up 3 people on the call. And yes, I count. And I will be doing the same thing. Preferably 3 people they didn't know before, right? If you can't find 3, go for 2. If you can't find 2, at least 1. All right. Look them up on LinkedIn, even if it is the institutional advancement office and you want to know what they can offer you. That's legit. That counts. Look them up. Reach out to them, make them part of your network, grow your own network, grow your own business, grow your own brand so that you can market better tomorrow, right? Have what they call a virtual coffee, because that's our new normal now. We have virtual dates, right? Start a virtual coffee chat with at least one other person. And whether you guys are talking about the insanity that is our current political climate and situation in life right now, or you're talking about next moves, or you're talking about your career fields. Either way, that's you relating to someone else who becomes a contact for you later, which is huge. And then aside from that, I really want to hear from other people, because I don't think I should be talking the whole time. What else do you plan to do after today? Sharing your opinions with the group. And then the questions that I wanted to address. There was one that I saw from Kristen that was really good. Here it is. How has mentorship and finding the right combination of mentors helped you in your career trajectory? Girl, that was everything. That was everything. Being able to relate to other people and finding people that see you and think like you, at least one that looks like you, like finding other, in my case, other mixed attorneys or other Latina attorneys or other Jewish attorneys, because that's the mix, all right? There's plenty of Jewish attorneys. There's not a whole lot of female Latina mixed attorneys in the world, not in my world, right? But I found one. I got one in law school. I found one. She was an interviewer, and she has been a mentor of mine ever since. And every time I have a question about how I should phrase things, I'm like, I can be a little unrefined. How should I phrase things to make them sound, a little better? How should I say this? How should I make this argument? How should I approach this topic? She's very good at giving advice. So you don't need just one mentor. In fact, you should have many mentors. Just one, it's like, you don't need just one Pringle, right? You got to have more than one mentor, because that goes into leveraging your network. Each one of my mentors serves a different function in my professional life. Each one of my friends serves a different function in my personal life, right? This is the family that you get to choose. You got the family you were born into, you didn't get to choose them, right? So you're stuck with what you got. But then you have the people in your life that you did get to choose. So you should choose wisely, right? Your mentors are like that. They're family you didn't get to choose. They're people that, they're family that you did get to choose. They're people that are there for you. They're people that listen to you. They're people that have your best interest in mind. They're people that are honest with you. They're people that give you tough love and put you on your ass when you need to hear it. They're people that pick you back up, once you're done taking your lickings and your lessons. And they're people that will shape you. Have as many mentors as you can, right? Whether they're from the alumni network, or they're from, back where you grew up, or they're from places that you've worked. It's important. And in my personal life, my mentors were everything, because my family could not mirror my experiences once I got to a certain peak. Once I got to college, I had no commonality with anyone in the family. We had no lawyers in the family. We had lots of criminals, no lawyers, right? It was really hard to find commonality with them, and they had my best interest at heart. They were so proud. They wanted to guide me. They just didn't have the ability. So finding mentors who could tell me what to expect was a huge impact on where I ultimately ended up. So I don't see any other questions from Kristen. Are there any other questions from the group at large, or ideas or input?
Hey, Nicole, it's Aaron. How are you? I have an interesting question. I don't know how you feel about this. On LinkedIn, there's the option to be private so nobody can see your searches, or be public. I always thought that was kind of weird. Which one do you recommend? Because if I'm looking up a job and then go, oh, this person's hiring, and then click on that person, are they going to think that's weird?
Okay, I think that's a good question. I'll answer that, but I'm also going to ask you a question in return.
Okay.
What do you get out of being private, or what do you think you would get out of a private search versus a public search?
I guess if it's a public search, then people know you're actively looking, or at least that person knows you're actively looking.
They do. And is that a good or a bad thing, and why?
I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. I think it depends on the situation.
See? So if you can't figure out, if you have no known reason on why that would be a bad thing, then why do it, right? So if you see an advantage, personally, if someone knows I'm looking and now I've made myself visible to them, they're probably going to be inclined to look at my profile, right? Because that's what I do to every single person I spot looking at my stuff. Like, who's this? And I go and I look at their profile really quick. And I look them up. I look up what they've done. Most of the time I'll accept the request if they've requested me or they want a message. So that now brings visibility back to you, right? You're now they see you're looking at them. I'm not sure what the disadvantage would be unless you're like looking up an ex-girlfriend or something, right? If you're stalking someone, okay, I get why that might be awkward. But if you're looking up an employer or an HR person or a recruiter, you're fresh meat. They're going to want to look at your profile immediately. And as long as your profile is up to date and is, a genuine representation of you and your abilities, is there a benefit to them not seeing your profile?
Probably not.
Well, I think you have your answer.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking, Aaron. I appreciate it.
Great.
That's a really good question.
Great question.
Anyone else with a question for Nicole before we wrap up? Thanks everybody for spending some time here. I just want to say, Nicole, you are a total badass. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences and also for challenging all of us to do better and to think differently. I think this is really important, and I love the way that you've kind of given us lit a little fire to hopefully inspire people to find themselves in a job that they are really proud of, or that they really care about, or to make a leap that maybe they've been afraid of taking and want to now, or to kind of get started. I wrote down a few quotable moments, including the one that Kristen called out in the chat, which I really liked from you. But I do just maybe wrap up by reminding everyone of something you started with, which is it's lonely where you are when you're the only one. It doesn't make you feel special. It makes you feel lonely. So once you get where you're going, look back and lift other people up. And I think that's such a valuable message to come away with from today's webinar, and also just to think about when we think about so many different ways to approach making some progress in all the situations facing today. So thank you for offering that. So many other great pieces of advice.
Thank you all for joining. If you guys want to look me up on LinkedIn or anywhere else, again, I'm happy to talk with you and share with you. Aw, thanks, Jim. And again, I'll send some screenshots of things that you can do with LinkedIn, or things that I've learned along the way with LinkedIn, Indeed, and ZipRecruiter. Those are the ones that I'm really decent at or good at. So I'll send along what I know, and you guys can keep it in the career advancement office, and all of you will have your own copies to use and distribute. Thank you guys for taking the time to chat with me today.
Before everybody logs off, I want to remind you that we have another fantastic webinar, which is coming up before the end of this month. It's going to be presented by Elite Rubin, and it's going to be on personal branding. So it's actually going to take a deep dive into quite a bit of what Nicole started us off with, and I'm really excited about the content we have for that. So that's going to be coming up on Thursday, June 25th. Take a look at hartford.edu/HawksSoar or mark it on your calendar. We'd love to see you there as well. And I look forward to hearing everyone's feedback on today's conversation. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Have
Bye.
a great rest of the day. Bye, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.